Greetings and welcome back to yet another episode of the Daily Run, and today we're playing as Azazel. First things first, I would like to explain why I didn't upload a video yesterday. So what basically happened is, I went into modding. Obviously I'm big into modding, as you can see about with other videos on my channel, and most of you are here because of them, so I'm really thankful for that. So I'll try to maybe cross-reference it a bit. Back in the day, I actually thought that this series was more of an isolated series, basically me just talking about it daily, but considering there's so many of you now, which to me is quite flabbergasting. I guess I just never expected my channel to explode so fast and so well, and obviously a lot of you were very supportive of the things I did. I really enjoy the fact that I have an audience, I guess, and obviously that's probably every YouTuber's dream, that they have some sort of an audience. But these daily videos are basically a diary of sorts, where I play through the game, play through the daily, and I talk about it. Maybe I talk about the game mechanics, maybe I even talk about something else, but usually it's related to the game. And I try to upload them every day, regardless of how the run went. If it went well, I try to upload it, try to talk about what I did well, maybe if I made any mistakes. And if I just die early on, I try to point out which mistakes I made, and usually it's quite a hilarious coincidence, the fact that I died. And, you know, we can all have a laugh or something like that. But what I discovered, no, not discovered, but what I try to do is basically, because I'm into modding a lot, I try to make a few mods, and what ended up happening, I was so invested in making just that one mod, and it had a very annoying bug, and because it's quite hard to debug this game, at least it was, I didn't know how to when I was making it like 2 days ago. I stumbled upon a lot of issues, and it was actually quite time consuming to find that particular bug and just kind of kill it. And it took me like, I think I was awake up until like 4 AM, and then I couldn't sleep until 7, and I woke up at like 10 AM, which was frustrating to say the least, obviously, when I can't get any sleep. And I try to play the daily like I usually do, but obviously when you're tired, your reflexes are bad, your reaction times just go to shit. And when you actually try to play the game, things don't, maybe they seem to be moving faster than they do, and I just ended up dying on the 3rd floor, which is not something that I usually wouldn't showcase, but it was just the intention behind it. You know, I was playing this daily, I was kind of forcing myself to half-ass something to get it on, and obviously, like I said, I never played these dailies for score. Obviously, I tried to play the dailies with the intention of getting for the highest score, but if I get a low score, I don't really care about it. I don't exit runs, I don't try to hide it or anything like that. But it still felt kind of disingenuous to me to upload it and then maybe to talk about it and just kind of fast forward. It would be even like a 3-minute video, which is not something I'm a big fan of. So what I thought I would do is get a nap maybe in the afternoon and then play it in the practice mode, but that nap never came, so I never played it in practice mode. And I just decided, you know, that maybe it's a better idea to not upload it at all, and maybe I would explain why I didn't do so the next day. I do hope to actually give you or show you some of the items that I've had. Most of them are actually with you in mind, so that you could take them and learn from them. Obviously, if you're interested in that, again, I'm not forcing you to doing anything, and learn from that. And every single one of them includes something that I haven't covered in my tutorial videos, but I consider that it's not big enough to actually put in separate videos. So I'm probably going to showcase all 3 of them at once, and each of them has like a unique mechanic to it which you haven't seen in the game before, and I'm really interested to see where things will go. Obviously, a lot of great mods have came up to the surface, and I'm really enjoying Afterbirth Plus so far. With that said, you know, that was just my explanation of why there was no video. Let's get to the actual daily. This daily was actually really good for me, much better than yesterday's one, definitely. We started out with Azazel, and obviously any Azazel run you can expect is going to be quite strong. But we had a very interesting predicament on the 2nd floor. So what happened is, obviously what you're trying to do whenever you're playing a character that has spirit hearts, you try to get more than 3 spirit hearts to the 2nd floor, so that you can take a devil deal, which always costs 3 spirit hearts, so then you obviously have some spirit hearts remaining. But sadly, I just couldn't get any spirit hearts, even though I had the poison item, which gives you black hearts if enemies die by poison. Serpent's Kiss, that's the one. Even though I had that item, I just didn't get any spirit hearts, which was quite unfortunate. But thankfully what happened is, as soon as I entered the devil deal, there was Judas's Shadow, and obviously it costs 3 spirit hearts, which mean when we pick it up we die. But because it's Judas's Shadow, it means we get brought back as Dark Judas, which obviously has just a humongous increase in damage and just a lot of tears as well, just an overall DPS increase, which is something that you don't want to pass up. But obviously, because we have Brimstone, Little Brimstone, and we're Azazel, we have Flight. If we respawn as Dark Judas, then we won't be able to fly anymore, and we won't have that benefit of having Brimstone. And obviously Brimstone is a great item just because it multiplies your damage somehow, in a sense at least, because you actually shoot like 10 ticks of damage, and every damage you have is basically applied on top of that. So actually going to Dark Judas is a DPS decrease to some extent, I would say, but obviously we get range, we get some speed, I think. And obviously just overall our damage is higher, which is, like I said, an interesting decision. It was actually not as straightforward as you might think, and the biggest fact is that you lose flight, and obviously flight is very important for safety reasons, and obviously you can get a lot of consumables as well. But I decided to pick it up anyway, because first of all, I'm not the person who doesn't pick up such combinations, you know, I'm not trying to min-max the game too hard. Sometimes I do, but not in this situation. I thought it would be more fun than just playing as Azazel, because Azazel is quite that boring standard character, and him having low range is actually quite a negative factor, and especially the daily that goes to Mega Satan. If you're stuck with Azazel and you don't want any item combinations which increase your range, it's actually very hard to fight both the Hush and Mega Satan with Winston's small laser. So that was my first decision, or maybe my first factor into making the decision of taking Dark Judas. Obviously just having a lot more range will mean that we'll get hit less, so our maximum score will be higher. But also the fact that we just get respawned as someone who has higher damage, I think, is a good indication. I'm trying to say basically that we are not losing that much by giving up flight, you know, because we're still getting other stats in return. And the fact, like I said, that sealed the deal was definitely the fact that fighting Hush is probably one of the most annoying things you can do with Azazel if you don't have any other stall alteration items. With that said, everything turned out after that actually turned out pretty well. We didn't get any Tears upgrades, which was kind of a bummer, but just because we had a very high starting damage, we can actually do a lot with that. And thankfully what happened is we also got that touch, and I got it off Curse of the Blind, so not Curse of the Blind, but Curse of the Unknown, I think. Basically the curse that hides items, so you don't really know what they are. And there was the reroll pedestal next to it, and I didn't know which item it was. And a lot of people don't pick up blind items, because the idea is that it could be soy milk and it could ruin your run, or it could be cursed eye, or any other item that basically just breaks your run. And I agree in some cases, but I think if you have a strong run going already, there's no reason not to pick it up, because usually it's just a passive item, but I think there's a lot more items which help your run than actually negate or harm it so much that it basically breaks it. And even in some situations when you pick up an item that should break it, you can still manage to get a victory out of it. So for example, Cursed Eye is still an item that you could make work, especially with that touch, just because of how potent penetrative shots are and the fact that you have so much damage. And even soy milk, you know, is not that bad if you have penetrative shots. It's still a DPS decrease, but the fact that you don't actually knock enemies back as you shoot them if you didn't have any penetrative shots, it is a very great asset, and is actually something that not a lot of people realize. If you even manage to stack a lump of coal, soy milk actually becomes a very, very strong item. Which, like I said, is not something a lot of people realize, but as you play these dailies, I think, at least I'm the kind of person who likes to experiment a lot, so I do pick up items that are usually bad, as is probably indicated by the fact that I picked up Cursed Eye like 3 videos ago. But thankfully, Hush fight was a relative breeze. So what happened is I got an Ivy bag, which gave me a lot of coins, and basically every time I use Ivy bag, the black Polaroid, the black Polaroid, gets activated, which means I deal damage to every enemies in the room, which is obviously great, because if you have Epic Fetus, like we do in this situation, Epic Fetus is really bad when you have a lot of enemies in the room, even though it has some AoE properties. If you're fighting someone like Fistula, it's gonna split into smaller enemies, and even more enemies, and then it just becomes hard to dodge, and actually have to dodge enemies and your explosive shots. So having this combo of actually triggering the negative with your Ivy bag is a great combination. And another great combination that we had was the Stopwatch, and Stopwatch works as of Afterbirth, somewhere in the middle. It was patched. Every time you take damage, everyone in the room gets slowed down, and usually that's quite significant. It's actually a pretty decent item, especially against larger rooms, because as soon as you get hit, everything just becomes super easy because everyone is super slow. But in this situation, we can actually trigger that ourselves, and the great thing about Ivy Bag is that it doesn't contribute to your damage penalty, which means that whenever you use it, you still get the benefits of getting the coins and getting the stopwatch and the negative, but you don't lose any points for actually taking damage like you do if enemies hit you, which it means that Ivy Bag is also useful for actually avoiding damage, because every time you think you're gonna take damage, you can intentionally harm yourself, and that way you're gonna have invisibility frames for like just a few frames, a few seconds, and you can dodge any tears or damages coming your face. So Ivy Bag is just an excellent item in all regards, not just in daily runs in general. If you can if you can get Ivy back, I would say that your run is most likely won. I would say if you get Ivy back early on, I would say your run is most likely won, because obviously just getting so many coins allows you to bind the shop items, consumables, trinkets, cards. It's really a decent item, and whenever you're on a daily like this one, I didn't have any red cards when I actually decided to play the Blood Bank. I did slow that part down, but I didn't talk about it because I was talking about my lack of sleep the previous night. Even if you have Spirit Hearts, just because we have Serpent's Kiss, it means we can actually regenerate them quite well, so it's not a bad idea to trade away your Spirit or Black Hearts for an increased chance of getting Ivy back. I would say it depends on how comfortable you are, but personally I would go down to 2 Black Hearts or to 2 Spirit Hearts or just 2 Hearts in general before I would actually stop, and sometimes even lower than that, just depending on how strong my run was. But at that point, because I didn't have enough tear shot speed or just my tear rate wasn't that big, I decided that I would stop at 2, but thankfully the Ivy back came much sooner than that. With that said, our damage quality was relatively low, I guess, at least for me. I'm the kind of person who does take a lot of damage, and our rank was 19th, which was obviously great. Every time you get to Mega Satan and you have an over 50,000 score, that's usually a sign of a very good daily. You can get much higher than this, obviously. I think maximum is something like 67 or 68,000. But 51,000 is a very great score, and I think that's indicated by the fact that we ranked 19th on the leaderboards, which again is a great score, and I felt like I said score like 15 times in the last 30 seconds. Either way, the fact that we also got Ivy back means that we got quite a huge amount of Shrek bonus. Shrek bonus is essentially consumable bonus, and exploration bonus was also rather high just because this run did go to Mega Satan. So overall, you know, a very decent daily. I made some quite good decisions on the past. I didn't get hit too much, at least for me, and I finished the run relatively quickly. Again, at least for me, I noticed that I'm 1000 in the time department, but the fact that I did finish the run in 45 minutes is quite fast, you know, like I said, for me. With that said, you know, I hope you enjoyed this one, guys, and I hope to see you next time.